Welcome back to A People's Guide to Publishing. I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing and Distribution. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 25 years.
I'm Ellie Blue. I'm the editorial and marketing director here at Microcosm. We are an independent mid-list publisher based in Portland, Oregon, and Cleveland, Ohio. We have over 700 books, over 25 employees, and we make about 40 new books every year. And we distribute thousands of titles from other publishers.
We started this podcast so that we can share what we've learned with newer publishers so that you can learn from our mistakes.
Or maybe you just want to understand the publishing industry.
Raven Bookstore is our Bookstore Solidarity Project partner for September. They're located in Lawrence, Kansas, and we're speaking with Chris, who's one of the co-owners of Raven. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what makes Raven Bookstore special and different?
Yeah, has a lot of really kind of rich history, and we've had just a number, maybe 3 owners before Danny when he bought the store in 2017, and each owner kind of had their own little touch on the store, and kind of continues tradition. We kind of keep traditions, a lot of them alive, and keep them going and stuff like that. And then Danny bought the store, and that was a cool kind of change from before I was hired actually from a previous owner named Heidi, and she was incredible and taught pretty much my entire book selling kind of ethos is kind of relating to a lot of just kind of what she taught me and stuff like that. And she, I think, was just kind of getting ready to, change directions a little bit. She actually did end up opening another bookstore, but she at first, I think, wanted to kind of change directions a little bit. And so, Danny was there to be able to take on the mantle, which was nice. And then in 2022, he, offered us all shares in the store. So we all became essentially, not all of us, but the majority of us became, employee owners and stuff too. And so that was kind of a fun kind of just shift in the mindset of, working at a business into running a business essentially. And we were already kind of helping, run day-to-day operations and just keeping the flow of everything going and stuff like that. But it's just, kind of gives it a little bit more, equity and obviously making for real. And then also just just thinking about all the logistics of what it means to be a bookstore and what kind of bookstore we want to be and become, you know what I mean? Because, I'm a musician as well, and so in my mind I was always oh, this is something that I can kind of come in and out of, and I will always do music, I'll always do books, but now I'm definitely more mindset this is something I really do want to do forever, and I just want to make this bookstore the best possible bookstore, and make other bookstores better too, hopefully, in the process of just kind of all of us raising each other up. So yeah.
Nice. That's great. And we have a similar, worker owner model because, as the workers create the value of,
yes,
the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So they should own a piece of,
absolutely,
what is the material value. And so, but backing it up a little bit. So what made you get into book selling personally in the first place?
Yeah, sure. I was actually, we're located in Lawrence, Kansas, and I grew up in Topeka, and then lived in Lawrence for a little while. I lived in Chicago, kind of between Topeka and Lawrence, then actually lived in Brooklyn for a good amount of time too, and play music and stuff. And I kind of really just wanted to be kind of centrally located, so that way I can go to the West Coast and the East Coast pretty simply. And, I essentially came to Lawrence, ready to kind of see if there was a, if I wanted to settle here kind of essentially, and didn't take long for me to kind of realize I did. I met someone, and that was made it a lot easier too. And then I actually honestly kind of just applied at a couple of different really staple Lawrence locations, a hardware store that's staple, a grocery store that's staple, and the Raven that's a staple, and I was just I want I'm sorry, my battery went low there. I want I want to work at a place that's got a tradition behind it and stuff like that. And I got asked, I got the job at the grocery store, I got the job at the bookstore, and I had to kind of decide, do I want cheap books, cheap groceries? And I decided I wanted cheaper books. And I always say I don't regret a single moment of it. And but yeah, that's honestly that's what had me apply for the job. But my dad also, as well as being a musician, he also worked in a place called Hastings, which is a books, music, and video store kind of in the Midwest. And So my entire life, like even though I saw like the effects of retail like kind of being a little gnarly at times, I definitely still always like would go with him and like definitely appreciated like just like the organization of like working on like bookshelves and like he would just like take me to work sometimes and I would like organize all the Dr. Seuss books or just like just something in the children's section that I could like enjoy while I'm looking at, and then also help out around I guess like free labor in a way, but you know. No, but anyway, yeah, exactly, yeah. But no, it was all that. I think that definitely inspired me too. And obviously, like I've always loved like bookstores and been drawn to like libraries and bookstores and just love the idea of browsing and sitting and just looking with something for a long time. So
Nice. What's your day-to-day role at the Raven, and what are the funnest days?
yeah, I technically am labeled the inventory manager. I'm kind of also amongst other managers as well. We're kind of like all a couple general managers and stuff. And my day-to-day roles, I do a lot of like the online orders and get all the kind of stuff processed for just getting books like the restock and kind of doing that stuff. And then when the books arrive, then I also doing a lot of the receiving and like opening the boxes and just doing the kind of like matching the orders and getting everything ready for shelving and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like the other day we had a kind of a meeting where we were kind of talking about our tasks, and I honestly like I have a really hard time like actually like listing my tasks, just because like any given day it could just be any number of variables that like decide kind of where I go and like who I talk to and like what I do. And I kind of like that just because it gives me like the freedom to still kind of like do a role, but also kind of be available to help out and put fires out and stuff like that. I kind of I always like I feel like I'm kind of a good cooler too. So like if the situation's like tense or like anything like that, I can kind of like, be there too to just kind of help dissipate it a little bit. Or, I got a lot of inspiration from like Roadhouse and, just like the idea of just being like a person that's just there to like kind of chill the whole situation. And I kind of have that vibe pretty good. So, but a good day. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Do you have a lot of situations that need to be de-escalated?
No, not really. No, there's definitely like, times where that happens, obviously with retail and just in terms of just the world at large, I suppose. But in general, no, it's pretty like good energy most of the time, and we have a really incredible like customers and regulars and stuff like that. So it's definitely like we're very lucky in terms of just the energy that kind of surrounds us most of the time. I was gonna say though too, a good day is on Mondays, generally my dog Arrow comes with me, and he's like a Chiweenie, and we have a store cat, right? So his name is Dashel, and we used to have another one too named Nayo, and she retired, so she actually is living elsewhere, but she's still alive, still kicking. And then Dashel is kind of the king of the castle, but he and Arrow get along really well, which is great. And Arrow's a Chiweenie, so he's like about the size, if not a little smaller than Dashel. And so I think that also plays into like Dashel's like respect for him, is that he could take him if he needed to. So
yeah. Nice. I like that. The visual on this is fantastic for one thing. And so what part of this is that most of our audience is publishers. Mm-hmm. So what would you like publishers to better understand about book selling?
Sure. It's one of those kind of thoughts that like in the moment I always have like a million different thoughts and then kind of recollecting, and I'm just like, oh, what was that thought I had? But I feel like still consistently one of the biggest things is like damages is just the idea of books being sent with like very little care and like love for the books, and not to just can I swear? I don't even know. Like, what is it? Is swearing okay? Okay, cool. It's just for that. Yeah, it's just for that. Just for that saying to blow smoke up your ass. Like, I'm not gonna say that, but like, Microcosm, you all send us stuff like very well packed, very like you can tell whoever put it in the box, like enjoys the books that they're putting in the box and isn't just like I gotta get these out just to these people that I hate as well. Anyway, it's just like you can tell that there's like love. Obviously there's always any kind of, again, like variables that can shift things, but for the most part it's always like a lot of love and care, and you can tell that there's sometimes where I have to finally like reach out to either a rep or like a customer service like head honcho and be like, listen, we've ordered this book like 4 times and every single time like it's come like worse, and I'm just like, you have to love this book. Like, how could you not understand that this is like a work of art, and because I try to appeal to their like understanding for that, because that's one thing that's always boggled my mind. And even just like also like materials that are used for making certain books, that's another thing that I love about like you guys and like $2 radio and stuff, is just like the materials are so good, and you can just tell that like they're consistent, and again, like people are actually putting thought into like what they're using. Sometimes you get like a book that like people are really like heavily anticipating, and like you can tell that they just slapped it together and they were just like, oh, we'll get like $30 a pop on this and that's gonna be great. And it's like, oh, but it's hard for us too to like sell that sometimes when it doesn't look that great, or comes with any other number of things. So I don't know, like I feel like that's kind of like a repetitive thing. It's just the damages thing, but yeah, it's constantly like in my mind, especially since I'm doing receiving all the time. And I really do, like I said, love books. And so it's like when I see books that are just like disrespected, I'm just like, like how could they do this to that, and I don't know, it's just frustrating. So, and also just those like ravioli, like those like flat like mailer things that they use, like I still don't understand like what the logic is behind like how you're even supposed to open that, like there's like a little perforated like half circle thing, and it's just like, what's that for? Is that supposed to do something? So
Right. The highlight of this year, 2023, has been that 2 different booksellers or owners of bookstores, which I guess now could potentially include yourself as well, came up and cried to me about how well we pack boxes.
Yeah,
and
I believe
I
it.
was like, of all the things to be like overwhelming with emotion, I was like, that's the one.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But it's just because like the bar is so low.
Yeah,
And people are constantly suggesting that we outsource our warehousing, and we're like, no, why would we do that?
Yeah, that's just, I mean,
it's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah, no, totally. And yeah, it's just, you can tell that like they are cared for as well, which is nice, you know what I mean? Because again, it's like just certain things you can just tell that when they're not being like cared for, and you're just like, like this is frustrating. And like, obviously like I like sympathize, and I like thought, like I realize that they're probably like overworked and or like packing like tons and tons of boxes. And I know how, like I used to do that in Brooklyn when I lived out there. I was like packing boxes all day, so I know how like tedious and hard that can be too. So it's like that also is like hard to like reconcile. It's just be like, I'm not mad at that person, I'm mad at this person for not doing better at this, that, you know what I mean? So just like stuff like that too. Yeah. But
well, sort of the converse of that last question, I guess, is there anything that you notice as a bookseller and store co-owner that publishers seem to think is really important, but that doesn't actually matter to you?
Not particularly off the top of my head. There's definitely certain kind of, I think, like pre-order swag that we don't necessarily like know how to distribute, because there's certain things that obviously people really do like and really love, and there's certain other things that we get sometimes and we just don't know how to even put it out in the store for people to enjoy. And like we obviously make we'll put it in a bag and be like, if somebody buys this book, make sure you hand them this like thing or whatever. And sometimes it happens, but not always. And then just also, sometimes they'll send us like 100 like pre-order bookmarks for a book that's been out for like 3 months or something like that too. And you're just like, yeah, that's cool. But again, yeah, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I don't know. There's I think that's it. It's just kind of the resources and just the amount of like certain resources and like what resources are being used for what certain things, and it's just, again, kind of hard to like understand sometimes like why they're choosing to do certain things and then not choosing to do other things. That just like, this would make a lot of sense if they would do that. And I wish I could be like specific, because I would hopefully can help publisher with that thought. But in the sense, like, it just seems that there's, again, like money being distributed for a certain idea that like maybe seemed good at one point, but like doesn't necessarily like relate to the same extent anymore, so
maybe they could put that money into their warehouse instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or just like a little nicer paper or something, just like a 1 cent more paper that's just like softer on the books, or I don't know, something like that. So
yeah, I run into this all the time where and it's just because like the people, sales will like suggest something to a publisher, especially if they're a distributed client publisher, that is like so disconnected from the reality. You know, I mean, we were constantly told to like make a poster for a new book, and then we would be like, oh, okay, the stores want posters, and then you send them posters, and they're like, we didn't have room for this. Like, where would we put this? You know, like, who do you think you are? You know?
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
You know, it's just like over and over, and it got to the point where we were like, oh, we should just like disregard all that advice. Like, we should just like make good books.
Mm.
And then if a store, and you know, and this is like a thing at trade shows too, where like people are constantly like, have swag for the booksellers, and it, you know, and then you like have like a junky plastic pen that says like the name of the new book, or you know, whatever, that's like hyped and then forgotten in 6 months, and you're like, that's not, like, nobody is gonna remember that book from that pen. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. Yeah.
So I appreciate you calling out swag as often misguided.
It can be, definitely.
And you know, and like, and I would love to see usable, practical, cool swag that you like. You're like, okay, this actually is, you know, makes sense. You know, it's like I have so many tote bags from publishers from conventions that like that
everybody
makes
at the grocery store knows about those publishers now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think like the room I'm in right now, we have like an area that's just like part of a shelf is just full of tote bags. You know what I mean? Like that we've gotten as like swagger, like from all the conventions and stuff we've gone to. Like because we come back with like 10 tote bags, and we're like, all right, if anybody wants a tote bag, we got one. And so, you know, it's just kind of, it's one of those things. And you know, I use 2 tote bags, and that's about that's the extent of the tote bags I need. So one's for me, one's for Arrow. You know, it's just how it works.
I like that. So what's the most important part of book selling to you?
Yeah, you know, access. Just like, you know, I love distribution of ideas and access, and just you know, I love reading like pretty like esoteric, like almost like barely narrative kind of like books. You know, sometimes they're fiction, sometimes they're nonfiction. But I also love poetry, and I love reading like a sci-fi story, and I love memoir, and there's a lot of like different types of books that I love. And I think that's just like my main thoughts with books, is just that, like, to give yourself like variety and to like explore the variety of different stuff. That way you can you know, learn more, and like learn more about yourself and learn more about others as well, you know. Yeah, like, you know, kind of said earlier, it's just that books have always been like a solace for me. And you know, when I was like living in a small town in central Kansas, and I used to be able, you know, it was like early 90s, and I could like walk to the library from my house like by myself, and I would just like spend hours like just like hanging out in the like the stacks of the library, and just like pulling books off the shelf that some of them were like way above my head, and some of them were like right, you know, at my level and stuff. But just looking at them was like what was important to me, and you know, trying to understand like what they were doing, you know. So that's kind of what my favorite thing about books is. And you know, they're all just like pretty like beautiful objects generally.
Let's hope.
So
yeah.
So slightly different topic. During the pandemic, the Raven did so many different cool initiatives. Like you had, you know, curbside pickup and bike delivery before other people did. You had kind of this program where people could like buy books for each other, or like buy books for people in need. Did any of those programs stick? Like, have you kept any of them?
Yeah, I think honestly all of them, except we still do have like in our like pickup message like curbside is available. Like if somebody doesn't want to come in, they can call our phone and we'll run out to them or whatever. But yeah, we still do like free in-town delivery, and we still do like a lot of like mystery boxes. And yeah, I think like most of the initiatives stuck. Like we are now like a masks optional place. We were like one of the last holdouts in Lawrence that like still required masks. It was like us and another place for a really long time. And then I think we just kind of, you know, a lot of our booksellers still do wear masks, and you know, during like flu season and other times, like I'll probably still wear a mask a lot too. And you know, definitely value this that we just couldn't offer them anymore. Like when we were requiring them, we were like buying them for the customers as well. And we just kind of got to a point like where we just couldn't like supply the city with masks, because like we were like you know, there'd be like a Saturday, like I'd be working, and like somebody come in and like just grab like 10 masks out of the box and just like walk out of the store and be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're like just taking those. That's fair, I guess. You know, we wanted them to be here, but okay, that's fine. You know, so it's just that kind of stuff too. Like we just kind of had to make some choices, and but yeah, for the most part, like I'd say a lot of it like has stuck, and you know, just in terms of like employee, you know, if somebody gets sick, like our sick leave is like pretty generous, and you know, all that kind of stuff too. Is like we just try to make sure that people are safe and taking care of themselves and not feeling like they have to like hurt themselves for the bottom line or anything like that, you know.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. And that's a part of it too, you know.
Mhm.
We may have outdone you in that we still have not reopened our bookstore
Oh, yeah.
after going out, or I guess more than 3.5 years.
Yeah.
But it's partly due to like we had to shift that staff to receiving and other things, and that space to storage because but
that's understandable, definitely.
I do joke that we are the like most health conscious bookstore because we still feel
You're
that
still
it is
closed.
not.
It's fair, yeah. No, it's totally safe. I understand.
But it is sad because then people will like come from out of town and then they'll like wanna, and then you know it's the awkward conversation of like, sorry, we aren't set up for browsing yet.
Yeah, it's hard. I hear that.
Yes, still, you know, and you know, because it's like most people, like Portland is big in tourism, so a lot of people are coming from like far, you know, they're coming from your part of the country, or you know. Speaking of, and we do have buddies in Topeka, so that's like a nice small world. We did a bunch of touring events there years ago, and so
cool. Yeah,
that's been neat to see like that town become, you know, to fruition.
I love it. Absolutely, yeah, I love Topeka. It's like I said, you know, I grew up there, so I have a affinity for it for sure, and it's one of my you know, there's a lot of great people there. That's like the main thing about Topeka.
Yeah. So, do you have a like a funny bookstore story to send us away with?
Yeah, you know, there's like quite a few, obviously. Just working in retail, there's like always like a lot of wild situations that occur. One of my like kind of favorite like recent things that happened was there's a regular whose name is Annie, who's, you know, she's a octogenarian. Like she's probably been coming here for well beyond my time of working here. I've worked here for like 10 years and she's probably been like a customer for like over 20. I think she used to sell used books like also, or she was like a bookseller of some kind too. So she kind of has that mindset as well. And, you know, she's kind of a curmudgeon, but she definitely has like taken like a liking to me, and like we get along very well. And, you know, I really do love her. Like she's just one of my favorite like people. And, recently one of her like so yeah, essentially like every like Christmas, you know, she'll like bring us like a list of like every family member, and she like of anyone that I know, she gives more gifts to like, you know, her brother's cousin's wife, or you know what I mean, like she's giving more gifts to like the most like distant unrelated to people that you can imagine. And but she came in one day with like a family member, and they were like, she buys a lot of books, doesn't she? And I was like, yeah, she does. I was like, she's one of our like best customers, one of my favorites. And she's like, yeah. They were like, I don't think we've ever had a Christmas where we haven't gotten like a stack of books from you guys and like from her, you know, like she was like, we have your bookmarks like all over our house. And they lived in like, I think Wisconsin or in Michigan or something like that. And she was like, yeah, she's like, so I'm just visiting for the day. And she was like, yeah, she had to take me to her lawyer, her accountant, and her bookseller. And so that I was, you know, part of that three, which I just love that I'm like part of like the triumvirate of like her three most important people like in her town, you know. So it just, you know, made me feel pretty special. And I like that. I like that story a lot, just because I was just like, oh, cool. Like I'm right up there with like lawyers and accountants. You know what I mean?
That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe even more important.
Exactly. No, yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's like a professional service on that level, you know, often maybe like not appreciated as such, but I think it is like the, you know, the skill level is absolutely like very, very contextual, you know, and it's like very knowledge driven, and, you know, a good bookseller is, you know, really it's everything. But
yeah, for sure.
What are the hardest things you do in life? Like doing your taxes, buying holiday gifts. You need strong support for that.
Exactly. No doubt. Yeah. And, you know, I know the kind of books she likes. So like when a new book comes in that I know she's going to like, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that she sees that, you know, so I'm like her eyes and her ears beyond just like her curator, you know, so.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
thanks so much.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah,
thank
you all so much.
Working with us to get the books to the people.
Yeah, thank
really
you. Yeah,
with you all.
Yeah, I really do love Microcosm a lot. So thank you guys for doing what you do. Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that's,
Well,
we'll make some more for you.
perfect. Yeah. Thank you. I'll sell them.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.